What's up, everybody, and welcome in to another edition of the Sit Down. As always, if you enjoy this video, please make sure you hit that like button and let me know what you think of tonight's discussion in the comment section below. If you're watching us currently live on YouTube, welcome in. Please make sure you hit that like button, say hello in the chat box to the right of the show. If you're new around here, you just haven't done it yet, we're living under a rock and seeing this video for the first time, I don't know what you're waiting for. Hit that subscribe button below now so you never miss another sit down video. What's going on, everybody? Welcome in. It is Wednesday, December 11th, 2024. We are about 2 weeks away from Christmas already. By the way, today, a lot of people don't know, but 34 years ago today, John Gotti was taken off the street for the final time. As we know, he was arrested alongside Sammy the Bull, Frankie Lacasio, and Tommy Gambino. And Gotti would never see the streets that he knew again. And it's interesting that today, Patrick Bet-David released a 3.5-hour interview with his son and namesake, John Gotti Jr. Now, we all knew this was going to happen, but not a lot of us knew when it was going to happen. I did speak to a lawyer friend of mine. He said it would happen in the coming days and that Junior didn't take any money for it, which he would confirm in the interview. What we're going to do, though, tonight is we're going to talk about this. Obviously, this is a big day in this genre. It's not often that John Jr. speaks. I went over and wrote down a bunch of things that I found interesting and also very head-scratching about it. But I want to start from the beginning and really just state one thing abundantly clear. John Gotti Jr. is an extremely interesting guy, okay? Very intelligent, very philosophical. And anytime he does an interview, I think it's very enlightening and interesting. And I think there's always been this notion that I don't like the Gotti family or I have some issue with them. I've never tried to be disrespectful to them. I've always just, to me, tried to live in what I know. And in terms of Junior, I think he's a really, really intelligent guy. I think his stories, like I learned a bunch of things that I had never known about John Gotti. Let's be real. A lot of us feel like we know everything there is to know about John Gotti. But even in something like this, we still learn something new. So I want to talk about some of these things and go over them. There was definitely a lot of Sammy talk. And I think the one thing I'll say right away is if you're expecting John Jr. to ever sit down with Sammy or any of these people, I don't think that's ever going to happen. That's never going to happen. Does it make sense? No, not to me. I would sit down with anybody for content. That said, I can understand why he wouldn't either, if you know what I mean. You know, John Jr. is still very much an old school guy. It seems like he lives in a certain way of thinking, even though what I find interesting is throughout the interview, he made it clear that he was a civilian, that he was, just a regular guy. You know, he talked about that very openly. I also want to point out, too, that I wish his wife all the best. I thought what he did at the end was a really classy move in talking about cancer research. And I know his wife is suffering from cancer. As many of you know, I lost my dad from cancer. We've all been affected by cancer. And I think it's super cool that that he mentioned that. And what I'm going to do, if we get any donations tonight, I'm going to donate a portion of it to that charity. So if you'd like to support our channel, we'll tally it up at the end, and I'll donate a portion of it to that research center. And I'd invite you to do the same. So if you'd like to support our channel, you like what we're doing here, please send in a super chat. It goes to our channel, and it'll also go to partly a good cause as we get closer to Christmas. But let's get into the show tonight and talk more about, and look, I want it to be very clear. Don't come in this show and talk crap. I'm trying to talk about this the right way, okay? Look, there's a lot of things that Junior's done that I don't think people in the street agree with. So let's go into it and let's talk about it. If you're out there, thank you for watching. I really appreciate it. If you enjoy what we're doing, as I said, please hit that like button and support it. Already about 200 people in here. I'm sure they'll usher in. As we know, this genre is always, hit or miss. Some nights you'll have a bunch of people in here, some nights you won't. So let's start out with one thing. The interview really started like a biographical interview. They started out talking about Junior's childhood and meeting his dad in prison and seeing his dad in prison. We've heard all that before. I really thought him going into the Velvet Mafia was super interesting. Talking about Roy Cohen, talking about Roy assuming that McBratney case and getting John Sr. a deal, a plea deal, which what we know about John Sr., he didn't take pleas, but as long as he was offered the pleas, he took a plea there, which was cool. And then they talked about how Roy Cohen had this like group of people, right? That essentially he almost alluded to the fact that they kind of blackmailed people, right? And that's why Roy became so powerful, because he knew about who was gay, he knew about who was a homosexual, and he used that against those folks, which I found super interesting. He called it the Velvet Mafia, and Patrick seemed to not know much about it either. I know Roy Cohen was powerful, but back in those days, Junior talked about how being gay was definitely way different than it is now. I thought that was super interesting. He mentioned his dad's hero was not Mickey Mantle, it was Albert Anastasia, which I'd never heard said before. Obviously, it makes sense. John Sr. was from and grew up in Brooklyn. It seemed like everybody kind of looked up to Murder Inc. at one point. We've heard Fat Andy's kid talk about that, and how Fat Andy Sr., was working around murdering people. We've also heard, too, that Anthony Ruggiano was kind of the big man in that neighborhood, and Gotti and those guys were kind of right behind him. The Carrazos, the Guerreris, people like that. Now, Junior stated that his father didn't want him in that life at all, which there's always been that thought that John Sr. was all about his son going into that life and being a gangster, and that he probably was proud when he did get made. However, he stated that he didn't want that life for Junior at all. So the old notion of John Sr. was dead set on Cosa Nostra for everybody. He also stated that his father told him that if you're in this life, you shouldn't be married or have kids. You should be fully dedicated to it, which that makes total sense. I don't think if you're in the mafia, you should ever have children or kids or a wife, because you have to give your life to that, not them. Your family is secondary. And I think in John's case, that was absolutely true. What do we have here? I'd ever heard, somebody's texting me saying that John's hero was Albert. I never knew that. I didn't read the book, so I wouldn't know. I'm doing a show right now. Don't text me. Excuse me. Frank Gotti's room is still the same. I thought that was pretty moving. Look, here's what I'll tell you about loss. You don't ever get over it. We all know that. But that's pretty amazing that in 2024, the room is still the same. 1980, Frank Gotti died, and we tell him to rest in peace. That's a pretty astounding thing I didn't know. John was asked about John Favara, and he gave his normal, he didn't know what happened. He stated that Favara may have been drunk, but he doesn't know if that was exactly true. He did like John Favara's family. In fact, he was friends with John Favara's son, but he also indicated that he likely was involved in the disappearance, meaning his father, which we all know, and we all have no ill will towards him for it. Look, if someone takes out your son, whether it's an accident or not, certain people are going to do something about it. And we've also heard that it is possible that Kazman talked about this, that possibly John Favara was doing stuff that was pretty disrespectful, that sort of thing. Somebody's saying you got to talk about Boston more. No, I don't. No offense, Batcave. I did a video on Boston. It barely got 4,000 views. Nobody cares, unfortunately. Nobody cares about the mob genre unless it's New York. I know what I'm doing here, my man. Thank you for the opinion, but I don't have to do more about Boston. I did a video on Luigi Minocchio passing away. I think it got 1,000 views in like 10 hours. Nobody cares. Unfortunately, someone needs to find John Favar's family and interview them and get their side of the story for once. Well, here's the thing, though. We could interview them, but of course they'll say that, they'll say the complete opposite. We can all just say that John Favara was in a very bad situation. He probably didn't act correctly in certain ways. Do I spite John Sr. for doing something about it? No, he was a gangster. That's what they do. Was he involved, as John Jr. would say? Probably. All right. One thing I thought was really cool. I love the card game stories. The stuff about Continental Rummy and poker and the Joe Messino stuff. He also mentioned that Jackie, the actor, Giordano, was a brokester. I never knew that. I did a show on Handsome Jack recently, and he was a brokester. He didn't make a ton of money. He also talks about he could adapt to any environment. He held court appropriately, but at the end of the day, was a hoodlum's hoodlum, meaning he could go out to have dinner with doctors. He can go out to have dinner with lawyers. He can go out to have dinner with street guys. He was a chameleon. He adapted to what he needed to adapt to. And then he got into Sammy. And this is where most of the interview took place. He talked a lot about Sammy Gravano. He said that Sammy was never a tough guy. He was a great schemer. And he got his nickname from being from Bull's Head, Staten Island, not the story that Sammy tells us about. He was a bull as a young kid, and the old timers were, found that respectable. According to Junior, it was because he was from Bull's Head and the name just stuck. I never heard that before. He also mentioned again he wasn't a tough guy and started taking steroids to make it look like he was tougher than he was. Now, look, I'm not going to go out and say that Sammy wasn't a tough guy. Here's what I'll say about Sammy, and I talk about this with other content creators all the time. Sammy Gravano did probably one thing that very few other people did do in that life. Is he didn't have any friends. He was a mobster till the end. He killed his friends. He was deceitful. He was a schemer. That's what they were. That's just the truth. We're not dealing with regular people here. To me, I think the one quote that I've always resonated with that Sammy talks about is, I played chess, they played checkers, and I won, basically. And call that what you want. It's a scumbag move, what Sammy did, all of it. But this is a gangster, right? So I always saw that and I thought, okay, was he a tough guy? I'm not sure he was. I'm sure most people could take him in a fight, as far as he was a little guy. I mean, he was 5'5", wasn't a big guy, for instance. Was he probably a little tough? Yeah. He was a good earner and did what he had to do to survive in that life, whether it was killing your brother-in-law, whether it was killing whoever. Was Junior taking steroids? That's another thing. He didn't mention it. That's a good point, though. It is absolutely possible. Look at this. Matt, $100. Thank you, Matt. I appreciate that. Thank you for the support tonight, man. I really appreciate you showing love and being here. I haven't seen you in a while. Look who it is. Mafia Roundtable with Dominic Cicale. Get off John Jr.'s dick. Hey, Dominic, are you going to still keep pushing this fake murder conspiracy? Dominic, stop being an immature dude. Seriously. I mean, but this is the kind of guy you are. You got to come in here and act stupid. Hey, Dominic, you're welcome to jump on the show if you want. Or maybe you can come on another show and you can explain yourself. Dominic, explain why the federal government would tell you exactly who's out to kill you. That would never happen. And I know, Dominic, you're going to go on a tirade about me, and I'm a fat fuck, and I'm on John Jr.'s dick, and all this stuff. Hey, Dominic, I'm reliving what he talked about. That's what we do in this genre. And I know you wanted to throw my name in with Scott Bernstein, even though I've never, ever said anything about Bruno Delicato being consigliere. When in the same discussion, Dominic, you talked about a guy giving you said they had a murder conspiracy against you, but you're mad at me because I said someone was in the life. Take it easy, Dominic. All right, relax. Sammy was a pretty intelligent dude. He was a good earner. I'm not gonna say he wasn't intelligent either. You're right on that. Hey, Joe Puzzles, what's going on? In a similar vein, John Sr. also didn't want his brother Vincent to be a member. He was only inducted after John was off the street. Good point. Good point. I'm thinking that John Sr. and Jr. made this point, and he said that he made the comment that John Sr. was very intelligent, which he was. Smart guy, a lot smarter than people think he was. And he said to Junior, this is the only door that ever opened for me, right? I think he probably felt the same way with his kids. Like, I don't want my kids or my family to be a part of this whole thing. Now, if they do, they do, but I don't want them a part of it. So I hear what you're saying, Joe Puzzles. Did you hear the subtle jab Junior said about Merlino? Yeah, he called someone in the interview a, quote, cokehead jockey. Now, again, jockey would mean horse jockey. And we know that there is one particular person on YouTube that at one point was a horse jockey. Now, I did speak to someone who interjected and told me that he refers to podcasters as disc jockeys. Then again, I don't know what podcaster on here is a, quote, cokehead jockey. I don't know. It seemed like he was taking a shot at the little guy in Philadelphia, but, and again, he did call him out recently, so that is indeed possible. But I did hear that. I did hear the quintessential knock on Joey, possibly. What's going on, Frank Fiorellino? Dom chill. Jeff is a good dude. Well, listen, Dominic's not going to like everything I do. Sorry. I'm in this genre. I'm a half a reporter. I'm going to talk about it. It is what it is. All right. So, yeah, again, he very much railed against Sammy. Not a tough guy, was just a schemer, was a hero in his own mind. He said that being in Queens, he didn't know shit about Sammy. Now, Patrick made a terrific point and simply stated, your dad was so good at judging character. Why did he ever elevate Sammy to this level? Which it's a great point. It's almost like, why did Chin Gigante befriend Peter Savino? That's a great question, isn't it? Why did these seemingly smart people do this? And we have to ask ourselves, out of all the people that you could have elevated, you elevate a guy who you didn't really know that much. He wasn't, a guy that you really were in circles with. Because Junior talked about the fact that his dad was very connectable to people that he, did prison time with. Frank DeChico, Michael Paradiso, Fat Georgie Remini, people like that. And then the guys from his crew. But he didn't know Sammy up until, he becomes, looking to become boss. He didn't know Sammy until the mid-'80s, arguably. He then elevates him and is on the hook for doing business with a schemer. That wasn't a very smart idea. And Junior mentioned that. I wouldn't have did it. We have to ask ourselves, is the most destructive thing that John Sr. ever did elevating Samuel Gravano to underboss? Because let's say he doesn't do that. Let's say Sammy is just a captain in Brooklyn and he elevates Locasio to consigliere and, I don't know, Peter Gotti to underboss. Who the hell knows? Doesn't matter. He's the decision maker. Or his son. Think if he never would have elevated Sammy. Now, we'll be honest. John Sr. wasn't convicted because of Sammy's testimony. He just wasn't. He was going to get convicted either way. That said, a lot of things wouldn't have happened. A lot of high-profile things wouldn't have happened. That was an extremely bad decision by John Sr. to do that. A lot of people in the chat. Thanks for watching. Look at this. Jason Diamond, $100. Here's my donation. Thank you, my friend. And what we're doing tonight, guys, is any donations we get, we're going to give a portion to cancer research, the charity that Junior mentioned at the end of the video. I think that's a really worthy cause. Thank you, Jason Diamond. You're always very kind and giving, and I really appreciate you showing love tonight. Thanks for always being there and being supportive of what we're doing. So I thought that was a really big turning point in the interview where Patrick is a smart guy too. He knows when to ask certain things. And Patrick surprised me with this interview. He definitely asked questions that I was saying, ask him this. And then he asked him. So the judge of character calling John Sr. in selecting Sammy Gravano a bad judge of character, that was a very astute point by Patrick and might be the most detrimental thing John Sr. ever did. Yeah, Bull, it was a bad default decision. What's up, Chris Breeder? What's going on? Nagone, Gotti got caught talking on tapes. A lot of gangsters did. Now, he mentioned that the government, quote, gave my father cancer and made him drink water that was polluted, which essentially what he said was at Marion, the water was not supposed to be drank. It was like Mexico. You don't drink the water. In fact, visitors were told, don't drink the water. He claims that they wouldn't allow his father to drink bottled water, and he had to brush his teeth with carcinogenic water, which indeed rotted his mouth out and gave him cancer and all these different things. Interesting. Again, that seems pretty harsh, but we know they hated John Sr., so that's absolutely possible. I often wondered if Gravano's elevation wasn't linked to his ties with John Gambino and the Sicilian crew. They had some connections in construction even prior to Castellano being killed. Well, yes, and they were also Brooklyn people, the 18th Avenue crew, right? You're 100% right. Joe Puzzle's very astute guy, as always. Thank you. Tevin Narcisse, what's going on, man? Michael Marcello, what's up from Scotland? What's up, brother? How you doing? Beck Brooklyn, what's going on, man? I thought John Jr. came off as intelligent and genuine. He also made a great point about Sammy being a juror. What about the other 11? Great point. He was winning that trial regardless. Exactly. He mentioned that he has not seen John A-Light since 1991. I thought he was kind to not talk about A-Light due to his daughter's death. That was respectable, I guess. You know, I haven't talked about John A-Light in a long time. I'm not running to do so either. John A-Light is who John A-Light is. Okay, let's get into the 302 because I have to admit, John Jr., I did not expect to talk about this. We have never really heard him talk about this outside of the Frank Morano interview where he called it a, quote, weak moment and that he thinks about it all the time. Now, he started this conversation by saying that he hates the U.S. government and claims that the 302 is a 40-minute tactic set aside and approved, and that he called his lawyers to conduct a meeting. This was in 2005. Now, I thought the dropping the ball at the highest level in this interview was to take the 302 out and read it. That was an indictment on him. Very bad decision. It also didn't help that he only read parts of it. And yes, he probably did make names up, which we've looked into. That said, he also mentioned Danny Marino. He also mentioned Joe Watts. He also mentioned certain people. That wasn't good, obviously. And I think what this does now is gives people ammo. Because again, remember how YouTube works. They're going to use this as a direct indictment to what they want to use it as. Listen, I've said this many times. I've talked about this since I started this channel. There are two things that I would ask Junior, one of which Patrick asked him, and it was a very good question. He asked Patrick, quote, what would your father think of that decision? To which Junior responded, he would have disowned him for even talking to the feds, i.e. saying hello or anything. That was a great question by Patrick. It's one of those things. Ask him. That's what I would ask him, right? That's something I think all of us wanted to know. And whether or not I care, because I've said before, people that cooperate, it doesn't mean anything to me. I'm not in the streets. I don't care at all. Okay. I couldn't care less. I've interviewed all these guys. I'll continue to interview all these guys. That said, when we look at what omerta is, it would absolutely be frowned upon. Now, this is interesting. We know that he has claimed recently that Vinny Basciano perceived it and was going to follow him on whatever he decided to do, and that he got it, quote, approved by the families. Now, he would state that Basciano, Joseph Arcuri, and Stefano Vitabile. Arcuri was high up in the Gambinos. Vitabile was in the DeCavalcantis. They approved this. They approved, according to Junior, him doing this with the government, sitting down with them. He would those state as well that Fonzie Siska, Arnold Squitieri, and Joseph Messino declined and said it was a bad idea. In fact, Joey Messino, according to Junior, stated it would be perceived that you were a rat if you did it. But that Junior said he wouldn't be perceived that way because he was a, quote, civilian. So my question is, why do this? What was the point of the 302? I still don't understand. Because there is something we have to talk about as fact. Junior did face 5 trials. We know that. Junior went to prison. We know that. What was the point of the 302? I don't understand. Because even Joey Messino, who 2 years later will cooperate himself, told Junior it would be perceived as a rat move. And we also, beyond a reasonable doubt, know that John Jr.'s father would have disowned him for it. So we have to ask, why did he do it? Because this is the one thing that in a lot of people's minds, they go back to. A lot of what Junior says is super intelligent. I like hearing the stories. I think he's a great dad. I've always said that. You know, I think he's done a lot of great things for his children. They're really good kids, it seems like. Why do this? It definitely seems like it was way more bad than good. And I mean, multiple people in the family, even in his own family, Arnold Squitieri, who was the boss at the time, stated they did not write off on this. Now, he compared this to Sammy and said, did Sammy tell John Sr. he was going to do something before he? And of course he didn't. That would make no sense. Now, Junior also went on to state that his life is no different and that he still eats at the same restaurants that he grew up eating in, which, look, I don't know if that's true. I find that hard to believe. My guess is he's not going into Mateo's anytime soon. Do I think that Junior is happy with his life? Absolutely. Is he a civilian? No. You're never a civilian. John Jr., until his death, is a member of the Gambino crime family. He has not been involved, though, in the life for over 20 years. And in the grand scheme of things, according to most people, he is a civilian. That said, I mean, he made the comment that he can't be perceived that way because he's a civilian is pretty crazy. I think reading the 302 was a bad idea. Not in my terms. I don't care about it. But the people that care about it are going to care about it. And they're going to use that as, see, look, he read it. He read it himself. I think we perceive, and this is the one thing I think a lot of people have a problem with on YouTube, is they think people in here are way smarter than they are. When no one actually is good on here, they're only going to use this stuff badly against you. That's how it all works on here. Like, I think we overrate how nice the people are on here. It's not like Joey Molina's just gonna be like, oh, well, okay, I guess you got it approved by people. It's okay now. Like, he's still going to use it negatively. And by reading it, what that's going to do is that's going to give these people, look, you can see him on tape reading it. You know what I'm saying? I think in all, though, it was a really good interview. I think the questions were terrific. I think Patrick did a really good job with it and asked, I think, really all the questions you could have asked. I'm curious, what do you think Patrick should have asked him that he didn't ask him? I would love for people to answer that question right now in the chat. Feel free to drop your answer. What's up, human? Thanks for watching, man. Appreciate your kind words. Funny how John Sr. took a plea for Jim McBratney, but wouldn't let Gene Gotti and Johnny Carneglia do it. Both guys who did close to 30 years. Yes, 100%. That's always been, I think, one of the knocks that a lot of people had. I talked to a guy recently that said that Junior in prison told him he can't take a plea, and the guy told him, I'm going to do what I want to do. I'm not a member of this family. And he wasn't. He was an associate. So he also mentioned in the interview, Junior, that he doesn't take pleas. He's never taken one. Pretty interesting that Steve Vitabile is supposedly the Cavalcanti authority figure in that story. Lots of confusion around the administration around that time. Well, yeah, but I think in the grand scheme of things, in prison, he was probably the foreseeable guy. Yeah, no, well, again, though, I mean, John Benet Ramsey Youssef, weird name, by the way. I agree, but remember, this is not 200 years ago or wherever. So yeah, I hear you. But as everything happens, I mean, things coagulate into other things. I see him around the North Shore a lot in Oyster Bay. Yeah, I believe he lives there. Does he know Barney Baloma? I don't think you ever would have answered that. He didn't seem very willing to talk about stuff happening today. But we do know beyond a reasonable doubt that he did know Barney. He went and met him over Bobby Borrello. He also stated that with the Gotti film, it was originally supposed to be him and Bobby Borrello in the car outside the Paul hit, not Sammy and his dad. Was Sonny or Michael Franzese mentioned? Yes. Sonny was mentioned a few times. Michael was mentioned a few times as well, in and around the same time. What else do we have here? Is it worth watching? It's 3.5 hours long. I think if you're a fan of this genre, you should definitely watch it for sure. There'll be people that'll tell you no, but I thought it was intriguing. There'll be things that you don't care about, but I thought it was intriguing. I bet the Gravano camp is seething right now. Yeah, who cares about them? Was Junior a better boss than his uncle Peter? I would say so. I mean, from all we know, Peter wasn't a good boss at all. So I would say absolutely. Would have been cool if he detailed more of his dad's life at home as a father. Yeah, I definitely think that would have been cool. By the way, Salvatore, aren't you that kid that got up here and was whining that one night? Whatever happened to you? I think that's you. Anyway, yeah, I agree. That said, I'm working on that. I'm working to get some information on that. By the way, Laval, thank you for the Cash App, man. I really appreciate it, bro. Thank you for watching. Mikey Scars said Junior met Barney and that he was a serious guy. Yes, they both did, as far as I know, over the Borrello situation. Buke, what's going on, man? Gotti Sr. would have loved to see the Raiders in Vegas. Yeah, it seemed like he, loved football. That's one thing we do know. What else do we have in here tonight? Doesn't seem like a lot of comments in here. I don't know. Maybe I just missed a bunch of them. Jeff, do you think Borrello would have put a scumbag in his place? Do I think Borrello would have put a scumbag in his place? You're referring to Sammy? Probably not. I mean, I don't know. I don't know Borrello, so I can't answer that. Probably not. No. Sace Murder, what's going on, man? Salute from Queens. Shout out to Sace Murder. What's going on, bro? I was hoping he'd ask him about when he was stabbed at CVS. Did we ever find out if that was random or targeted? My guess is it was random. I believe he was trying to break up a fight, as far as we know. But yeah, I don't. I would sense that he wouldn't answer that anyway. I think Junior should be recruited by Hollywood for a new crime series with lots of real stories interjected. Well, maybe that'll happen. Maybe they'll get him on the Sammy consultation. He also claimed that he turned down $10 million to sit down with Sammy or somewhere around there. I mean, you got to respect his morals. That said, I mean, money's money, But I think that throws out any possibility that Junior Gotti will ever sit down with anybody. Mikey Scars, G. Morello, any of these people. Like I think he looks at himself as higher than them, I guess, if that makes sense. Barney is very down to earth. Well, you would know. You were around that life for sure. I like that he mentioned the original Gotti movie was good. Yeah, well, it was. What's up, Forza? Thanks for watching, man. It was interesting to hear Junior say he met with 7 guys in regards to talking to the government, and only Arnold was pissed. Well, no, he also said that Ciscas declined and that Joe Messino declined. So not everybody wasn't pissed as well. Regarding the plea back in the early 70s, does it matter if they're in the life or not? Would they need to admit that they're part of the family back then, or is that more of a recent thing? No, I believe that's always been allocution you're talking about. I believe that's always been a requirement. That said, Junior stated that in prison, when he was at Marion, all John Sr. had to do was say that he's moved on and will change his life and he could get out of segregation, and he declined to ever sign the paper, which makes little to no sense to me. It's not admitting you're in the mafia, but you know, I will say there's one thing about John Sr. that I think we've all learned. He was a really stubborn guy. I mean, he's not going to ever do certain things, just not how he was built. He's the kind of definition of old school. Gotti Jr. and Skinny Joey should start a production. Well, let's stop talking stupid. Listen, John Benet, no offense, that's kind of a creepy name, man. I'm not gonna put your comments on the screen anymore. I don't wish any ill will, but just a weird name, man. Junior said Sammy was such a POS, but Tato Borrello would never replace his position. How would you know, Jim? I mean, did you know Tato personally? Maybe he schemed Tato into believing he was something different. Listen, I don't disagree with you. That said, it was a bad decision to make Sammy the underboss. It just was. I read that Nicky Carrazzo wanted Junior killed and Senior had to pay to get him a pass. Don't think Nicky had much love for any of the Gottis. Well, I think that was common knowledge. I have not heard that later in life, though, that was true. I know they didn't like each other particularly early on in life, but I believe they had made it more easy to be around each other. I've never heard about that. Junior was on the chopping block with him. Jeff, I wasn't crying. Oh yeah, you are that guy. Never mind. I don't want to go back through that. He turned down $1 million is what he said. I've heard through people it was more. Do you think Junior and his mom are still living off Gambino money? No, I don't. I think that Junior lives off money that he made that he probably socked away. He spent a lot of money on attorneys, man. A lot of money. Do I think he's wants for much? Probably not. But I think his mom's probably just like his father, very dug in. That's what those older folks are. They don't care if the neighborhood they live in is bad and there's gangbangers everywhere. That's their house. Remember, John Sr.'s house, the bedroom is still the same way it was in the 70s. That's got to be unbelievable to see. I mean, that's pretty wild to think about. It's 2024, but it's like, the pain never goes away. So, him and his wife definitely were, dug in people. Yesterday was the anniversary of the actor Richard Castellano, who portrayed Peter Clemenza in The Godfather. I didn't know that. Well, rest in peace to him. I respect the fact that he never jumped on YouTube like others just for a buck. Seems that turning his life around was genuine. Yeah, I hear you on that. I definitely think it was. But we're seeing him starting to come out of the woodwork now. How about Sonny supporting Joaquin Jr.? Yeah, I did hear him mention that. I got to listen back again to hear that a little bit more. But yeah, that I did think I heard that. He took a shot at Joey. Did you catch that? Yeah, we mentioned that earlier. Why would he even think asking Gwen for Queen of the Day would be okay? Yeah, that's a good point, Frank. I have to ask that as well. I also don't understand what the point of it was. Like, it's not like he saved himself from anything. I mean, again, it just seems like a lot more bad than good would come of it. And that said, that's a good point. I mean, going to like Joseph Arcuri, I just find it hard to believe that he would ever sign off on something like that. I mean, Joe Arcuri, his father goes back to like Santo Trafficante Sr. Like, I don't know. That seems hard to believe to me. But again, I wasn't there. All right. I'm just an outsider looking in, but that is a good point by you, Frank Fiorellino. I thought that Sammy was friends longer than that, according to Sammy account of his friendship with Senior. Well, no, Sammy was with the Colombo crime family up until the late 70s, early 80s. I mean, he probably met John, knew him for a few years. All right. Yeah, I don't agree with that. I don't believe that. Maybe they do, but Frank Fiorellino said that they don't. So I don't know. Maybe they do. Either way, it's an idiotic statement to make by him. And I'm just telling you what Frank told me, that they don't tell you. I mean, what sense would it be for them to tell? That doesn't seem like it would make any sense. But yeah, maybe you're right. I don't know. Great stuff, Jeff. Nice to catch you live from the United Kingdom. What's up, A777? Thanks for checking out the show. Junior seems like a nice guy. Just grew up into a lifestyle that was very uncertain. I root for him. Well, that's nice of you, Laval. And Laval, thanks for the cash app, man. I appreciate it. What's crazy too is he was really down and out when everyone was jumping on YouTube for cash. He chose not to. Well, listen, I don't think Junior's hurt for any cash. I don't think he needs to go to the mattresses anytime soon. Have ever been to the Ravenite? No, I have not ever been to the Ravenite. It is still a shoe store. I believe it's called Descendant of Thieves. By the way, speaking of New York, I will be in New York at the beginning of January, and if I told you I had some interesting things in the works, would you believe me? What if I told you I was going to go to one of these neighborhoods and start asking around about certain criminal organizations? I'm an investigator at the end of the day. Journalism. It's time that we start asking about some of these people. It's time to start acting like Geraldo Rivera. What do you think? Hello? Hey, can I talk to somebody in here? I'm curious about what goes on in this place. Hey, they say I don't have any balls. Well, it's time to have some balls. I'm an investigator in the end. I'm also going up to do a fairly important podcast, so stay tuned. You guys are going to enjoy this thing. I mean, we have to say that back in the day, Geraldo Rivera knocking on the door of, hey, what goes on here is pretty awesome coverage, man. All right. One of the more surprising revelations was his father insinuating that Sammy wasn't within 10 miles of the Castellano murder. I believe that. Joe A is one of the most underrated guys in the life, huge money and intelligent, and never really went to prison, Joe Arcuri. A very good point. Jason McGee, I love your channel. Keep it the good work. Thank you, Jason McGee. I appreciate that. Thank you for the kind words, brother. They met in 1977. Okay. Well, okay. Thanks, Mon. I'm sure you would know. But again, he didn't grow up with him. That's the point. He didn't go to prison with him. He didn't do time with him. That's the point that they were making. Is John Jr. doing his own podcast? He did reference that. He's going to be talking to former criminals. Sounds interesting. Don King says, well, his house is in foreclosure. No, it wasn't. His sister's house is in foreclosure, not his. Important to know the difference. It was a good interview, but everyone knows if anyone is from Bensonhurst, it's Sammy. Correct. I don't know if that surprised anybody. I like it, Jeff. Next level journalism. Yep. It's time to start asking some questions. Hey, my name's Jeff, and I'm a journalist. When you hear the word mafia, what do you think of? I don't want to answer that. No comment. Mafia. I don't know what that is. What else do we have here? Just don't end up looking for Al Capone's vault. I won't. That will be one thing I won't be doing. Apparently, Carneglia hated Junior as well. No info on him since he got out. You talk about John Corneglia? Well, I don't believe he does like Junior. I mean, I don't know that anyone that was in that life back in the day talks to him now. My guess is they don't. Who remembers when Geraldo opened up the Al Capone safe? Yeah, that's what he's most known for. I have asked Geraldo to come on this show, and he declined. He's not doing interviews right now. So, oh well. I do have a good guest coming on next week. You guys are really going to enjoy this. I'm looking forward to it. I've been doing a ton of work on this channel for this show coming up, so I'm excited about it. So make sure you check out that brand new interview coming out next week. We're recording it on Monday. Jeff, have you asked Gotti Jr. for an interview? No, I have not. I don't believe he would do one with me. Francisco Fiordolino, they usually tell someone there is a threat to flip the intended target. There you go. Which Dominic had already flipped, so that wouldn't have worked. Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I guess it is possible. I mean, maybe the government went to, Dominic and said, hey, there's an active hit out on your life, and Michael Mancuso ordered it. I don't know. Seems a little hard to believe. All right. When did Sammy turn underboss? Believe it was late 80s officially. It wasn't that long. It was like a year until he got arrested. And remember, Gravano was the consigliere, from 88 or around then. What's up, Pedge Tattoos? What's happening, my man? Dirty. What's going on, Dirty? I wonder if John Jr. has any of the Carmine Agnello money left. I would have no idea. What are your plans for your channel in 2025? Taking this to a whole new level. I got some big interviews coming up, ones that I'm going to go on and have. My hope in 2025 is to get out of just doing 20-minute videos on YouTube. It was claimed by a mob content creator that Geraldo was considered to be whacked for his coverage of the life. Well, yeah, I mean, John Stanfa said he wanted to kill him. Remember, Jeff, they wanted to clip Geraldo. Well, I'm sure there's a lot of people that want to do that to me as well. Geraldo Nadu, I like it. I caught the Junior interview. It was insightful. Yes, it was. What's up, Crown Prince? Wonder what Uncle Gene is thinking. Wow. Listen, Gene Gotti was born in the 40s. He did 30 years for that family. Do I think he talks to Junior? Probably not. I mean, I'm just assuming it, but I don't quite know. By the way, guys, I got to ask you about something. Am I stupid I had an idea that popped in my head today about someone reached out to me through DM and asked me, and guys, don't laugh, but hear me out. They said to me, hey, Jeff, is the Amish Mafia real? Is there a real entity that protects the plain community? Now, remember that goofy show, that bizarre show that came out about 10 years ago where they assumed that there was in my county, Lancaster County, there was a group of people dubbed the Amish Mafia. There was a person called Lebanon Levi Stoltzfus that ran this, and he protected Amish aid, which is a real life thing. They said, is that real? And I said, of course it's not real. That said, I want to do a video on the involvement of the Amish in crime. Because if I told you they were involved in crime, would you believe me? There's a couple of organized crime incidents involving the Amish, both them being involved with it and doing things that are not perceived as holy in a way. So I might do something on that. By the way, a lot of people don't know this. Those people in that show, they're all actors. Now, they were Amish at one point. They're not Amish anymore. So like Levi used to be Amish, not Amish anymore. Esther used to be Amish, not Amish anymore. I went out on a date with Esther twice. Cool girl. Good people. Not Amish. Hasn't been Amish for like 20 years. Geraldo got his nose broke on TV. It's a real life journalist, bro. You should do a show on the Lower East Side. I've been to the Lower East Side. It's a good place. Been to Basketball City before. I remember I went there super early in the morning one time. I drove right down Mulberry Street. Right down Mulberry Street. Do you think Messino knew he was going to flip when he was telling Gotti not to talk to the cops? No. I think that was probably too early for that. That was about 2 years before. When he mentioned to Chico, I detected regret on behalf of his father. Sammy became underboss when Chico was killed. Someday when we talked about that earlier. It was a very detrimental decision of John Sr. I wonder if John Sr. preferred Coke or Pepsi. No idea. He did like veal parm sandwiches, though, according to Junior. Irvin Phillip, you're the bomb, bro. Love the content. Thank you. What's going on, Irvin? Yeah, I don't know about that. That's an NYC Crime Spots thing. He does a nice job with him. I don't think that'll ever happen, but I would love to. The answer about sitting for the 302 is purely ego and self-serving. Yeah, look, I definitely wouldn't have did it. I definitely wouldn't have read it on camera. But he feels it was a legal maneuver. We know, though, beyond a reasonable doubt, that's not true. And the thought has always been, what would Dad say about it? Well, he would disown me. So, and listen, again, Joe Messino stated, you will be perceived as as no good. Remember when Geraldo interviewed Tommy Horsehead Scafidi? Yes, vaguely, I do remember that. I'm a fan of PBD, but it was funny to see them pulling up Wikipedia throughout the interview. Yeah, all you people that say I use Wikipedia, are you going to go tell Patrick he uses Wikipedia? Fuckers. Wikipedia. I use fucking Ancestry. I pay for it. I get bloodline chart information from Ancestry. Ask Joe Puzzles. He knows about fucking Ancestry. Do any of you people pay for newspapers.com? I do. Wikipedia. I'll be waiting for some of you folks for an apology. Angel Gotti said that. Nay, do only uses Wikipedia. Shout out to Angel. No knock on Angel. But she did say that. Angel, Patrick uses Wikipedia. You going to say that to him? Barb says, yes, there is an Amish mafia. They are involved in trafficking sourdough bread. Good point. They're not involved in puppy mills. That's untrue. There are puppy mills here, though. They build fireplaces. They build all sorts of things. My father had a bunch of Amish that worked for him. There were probably 40 of them at my father's funeral. They all came. Very nice people. Amish are very nice people. I know many of them. Very nice people. They'll give you the shirt off their back. They're plain, quiet people. That said, if there was an Amish mafia, it would absolutely work. Absolutely would work. There's a fuck ton of money in that community. But it's funny. You guys should just Google it sometime. Some of the clips from that show. I mean, it was really funny. Like in one scene, that guy Levi has one of his henchmen come in and he's like, hey, there's some guy selling quilts. They're fake. They're not real Amish quilts. He's making money off exploiting our community. Go teach him a lesson. And so the guy takes his buggy to where this guy is, and he walks up and goes, are these real Amish quilts? And the guy goes, yeah, they're real Amish quilts. And he starts just pouring gas on them and lighting them on fire and knocking down the table. And then in another scene, an Amishman is being a peeping Tom to some English lady, which is what they call her. So the guy, he knocks on the door and he goes, hello. He goes, is there a person peeping in your window? And she goes, yeah, that fucking scumbag. He's peeping in my window. It's some Amish guy. So this guy goes and rigs the guy's buggy with a bomb and blows it up on camera. It was bizarre. What a bizarre show that was. Yeah, it was weird, wasn't it? I thought that was interesting when you mentioned it early on Frank's show. I think it would be a good watch. Yeah, I definitely know of situations when I was younger that I heard about in this county involving Amish um, kids that were involved in, certain things. So I'm going to talk about it. And one of the groups got a federal case against them. There was also a big thing out in Ohio about 10 years ago. And I know this is going to sound stupid, but organized beard cutting, which is a hate crime. I want to talk a little bit about that kind of stuff. Plus, the Amish have been victims of crime. Obviously the nickel mine shooting, which happened about 20 minutes from where I live. You know, they're involved occasionally in exploitation, things like that. Are the Amish a religious group? Oh, very religious. Absolutely. Kelly McGinnis was super hot as an Amish woman in the classic 80s film Witness, also a film filmed where I live. I remember hearing about that as well. That's actually a good movie, by the way. Harrison Ford, I believe, is the lead role in that. Yes. That was filmed out in, I believe, like Birdhand, somewhere out there. What's up, human? Take it easy, man. If it wasn't 10 million he turned down. No. Again, he didn't say it on the interview. Someone told me though it was a huge amount of money. Yep. So be on your best behavior, please. My cousin is a bank VIP. He said they love lending the Amish money. Fantastic credit, and they're ever late on their payments. No, they're good people, man. They don't screw around. They all have money too. Jeff, I think Junior was just trying to make the feds look like the jerk offs. He said they are. The fact that he made up such a ridiculous story with dead people and agents as bar patrons to show they didn't even do their homework. Yeah, but again, he did also mention Danny Marino and people like that. SPK. I hear what you're saying. I got you. Great roofers. Yep. They did my roof. The Amish built this house that I'm in currently. They build all these houses. They do all the framing work. Yeah, it's a great site, Ancestry. I bought my Akita from the Amish in Lancaster. Yep. Everybody comes here for that. Tracy Gamwell, what's going on, Tracy? Hope you're doing well also. Thanks for watching. Jeff, I'm a groomer and I work closely with dog rescue. They often specifically take dogs in from Amish puppy mills. They're absolutely real. No, I'm not saying they're not real, but they're not as prevalent as they once were. When I was a child, they were way more prevalent. That was a big campaign around here. What other cologne did Gotti wear? It can't be just gray flannel 7 days a week. I have no idea. Oh, that's what you would ask Junior? Okay. That was a funny show. What were there? 4 members? Yeah, there were like 4 to 6. And then there was like that rival from Ohio, Merlin, he was called. I got to tell you, so funny story about the Amish Mafia. So a place I go to regularly, a place called Yorgos. It's a big bar downtown where my city. I know the owner, good man. So this was about 10 years ago when Amish Mafia was popping. They all used to go out in Lancaster. You would see Levi and all those guys regularly. I became pretty good friends with the black Amish guy. That guy was a trip. He was actually the guy that had the original idea for the show. He had this media company, and him and someone else got the idea and put it together. They called him the Schwartz Amish. But Schwartz Amish is black Amishman. Schwartz is black in Pennsylvania Dutch. And he used to go out and get drunk off his ass. And he was a funny guy, that guy. I still follow him on Instagram. He's still around. These quilts are fucking fugazi. Yeah, he didn't say that. He goes, are these quilts? He goes, they're not Amish quilts. Yo, they're Amish quilts. He didn't say fugazi, though. Yeah. Bizarrely genius. Everybody talked about that show for a long time, people. Everybody liked Amish Mafia. I feel like Lee Cole would have loved that show. Don't you guys feel like Lee would have loved Amish Mafia? Dude, Did you see Merlin last night, dude? I feel like I think Lee would have liked Amish Mafia. Don't you guys think Lee Cole would have loved Amish Mafia? Dude, that Esther, she was hot, dude. I need to watch this show. I don't know if you need to watch it. It's not, maybe watch the first episode or two, and that would be about it. The Amish are pacifists. Well, most of them are. Henry Rocco, 9.99. Thank you, Henry Rocco. Appreciate your support, man. Thank you for always showing love, bro. Nearly 500 people in here. Thank you for watching. Please hit that like button. If you'd like to support our channel further, please hit that super chat icon in the bottom of the chat. All mobsters are repetitive. It's like, yeah, again, we know this already. I'm not going to read some of this repetitive stuff. If Gotti Jr. and Joey did a sit down, yeah, that's not going to happen. They're one of the fastest growing groups in America before open borders, have a lot of kids, and are buying a lot of land. Oh, Amish, absolutely. Yeah, they're in Indiana and Ohio and Minnesota, all sorts of places. Do I know the difference between Amish and Mennonite? Yes, absolutely. I know the difference. Now, there are different levels of Mennonite as well. I mean, there are Mennonites that are basically Amish. They just have different looking buggies and stuff. Now there are like the Schaefer Mennonites that are like really Mennonite. They ride bicycles and wear like these pointy hats, and they wear like blue suspenders. They are in this county too. They're up towards like Shady Maple area. But no, I mean the Amish are way different than Mennonite. Like, but they are similar, simple people. But they're not the same. All right. You have to admit that when Angel says "nay do," it's very funny. Yeah, I do think that. I've always said I think that's funny. Angel's all right. You know, her and I have mended certain fences. The Amish do keep their crime and issues in house and goes to accounts of elders for discipline. Well, that's sad though, because people are M-worded a lot. Children are M-worded a lot, and they do nothing about it. So you know, there's a lot of P blank E blank D blank O blank S's in that community. So keeping it in house is not the way to do things. They also denounce and completely banish people from the community. Amish have a stand at the farmer's market, and the food is delicious. Yes, they are good cooks. They have good food. I love drunken black Amishmen. Well, this guy was cool. He was cool. Yeah, Alan Byler. He's good guy. Jeff Hun, I'll catch up with you on X soon. It's nearly 4 a.m. All right, well, take it easy, Tracy. Good night and have a good evening. Appreciate you watching. Amish Mafia was kind of a fun show to watch. Yeah. I mean, at times, I mean, it was kind of goofy, but I hear you. I believe I watched the whole series of Amish Mafia. Really? What the hell would make you do something like that? Yes, it is. Rumspringer, absolutely. It was copyrighted, sadly, LB. Would you interview Mafia mate Anthony Caucci? No, I would not. AMG says, great show, Jeff. I always support you. Well, thank you, AMG. Thank you for supporting me. I really appreciate that, love. Thank you for the kind words. I hope you're doing good. The guy at the City Pizza by Train Museum said the girl on the show that dated Levi lived in one of his apartments and she was trouble. Nah, she's good people. I know her pretty well. She's a nice person. She definitely had a man that wasn't the greatest, but she was good people. I know her well, Esther. She's a nice person. She's actually doing a lot of really good work in the Amish community now. So I haven't seen her in a while, but she's looking good. I mean, she's always in great shape and she's good people. I mean, we all grow as people. So I wouldn't have a bad word to say about her. Again, I know her pretty well. She's cool people. Angel and Lee, that is a great combo. Yeah, I think they work pretty well together. Craig Tracy, $20 Canadian. Thank you, Craig Tracy. You know, Craig, one of the longest running supporters of our show. I really appreciate that, Craig. Thank you for the love. Look at this, Ryan F. Thank you, Ryan F. $10. Thanks, Ryan F. Thanks for showing love tonight, man. I watched Amish Mafia, and anyone who is discerning would be taken away that it wasn't real portrayal and just an entertaining spoof. Well, of course. I mean, I don't know why anyone would think it wasn't. Why would I interview Mafia Mate? Because he's a bullshitter. That's why. I gotta watch this shit. Yeah, it's actually on YouTube. I wish I could. Can I play it? Nah, I'll probably get hit with a copyright, but it's funny. If you just type in Amish Mafia, you'll find it on YouTube. Great show. Thank you, Frank Fiorellino. All right, guys, I'm out of here. Thank you for watching tonight. Make sure you go check out the Junior Gotti interview. You can find it on Patrick Bet David Valuetainment, and give it a watch. See if you might enjoy it. I think you'll find that it's pretty interesting. So we'll see. Nonetheless, it was a good interview, and I found it to be fascinating. There were some things that definitely didn't make sense. There were some things that made a whole lot of sense. So make sure you check it out. I'll see you all again soon. I will not be on tomorrow night, and I will not be on Friday. I got a brand new show coming out on Saturday, though. On Saturday, you want to make sure you check that out. I will see you all again soon. Thank you, everybody, for donating, for supporting, and for hitting the like button and commenting. I'll see you all next time. Bye-bye.